I'm not sure I could live up to all that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Wow. Okay. It's interesting. And Dennis talked about my managing the Yankees. What he didn't talk about is before I managed the Yankees, I was fired 3 times. So, in actually getting the Yankees job, I believe that I was probably at the bottom of a list that contained 3 people like Tony La Russa, Davey Johnson, and Sparky Anderson. But I was very fortunate to have all those guys have something else to do, and then George hired me. But in doing my job, it was interesting because when I took over the Yankees in 1996, and you're certainly not callous to what's going on around you. And what I mean by that is when you've been with clubs who, we had some success. We won a division with Atlanta, and that was about it. In St. Louis, I had 5 years of, managing players, and the whole thing about it is the fact that the only thing you're judged by is winning. And it's, you feel you have a certain way you do things, certain way you communicate with people, a certain way you get the best out of every individual. And it's important for me as a manager to sort of see what that player is capable of. Not everybody's capable of hitting 30 home runs or winning 20 games, but you have 25 players you had to deal with, and you have 162 games. So obviously it's a marathon, and at some point in every season, you're going to need every single one of those guys. So it was my job to make them feel like they needed to be there, and we needed to have them. The fun part about it, for me, it was sort of a game, because when I was a kid, I used to play like a lot of kids, go over to your buddy's house and go down the basement and either play with the dice or spin the dial, and you played baseball. I mean, it was in my family. I mean, my brother Frank played before I did. He was on 2 championship teams with the Milwaukee Braves back in the 50s. And so I played manager as a kid. And then all of a sudden you're playing it with real people. It gets a little scary. But I came to the Yankees, and the thing that I kept hearing was that I was a player's manager, and again, based on, the success rate, I wasn't very successful. My total managing record was 100 games under 500, which is certainly not an example of being a championship manager or player. So I was thinking to myself, what can I do different? What can I do different? And I remember my first day in the Yankees clubhouse in spring training. I was in the exercise room because that relieves my stress even before the stress started. I was on the life cycle, and I was reading Bill Parcells, the former coach, Hall of Fame coach now. He used to coach the Giants, obviously, coached them to Super Bowls. And I'm reading, and I'm just trying to find out what clue in here that's going to help me do something different and succeed. And then I saw a title of one of his chapters. It said, "If you believe in what you're doing, stay with it." And at that point, I realized you are who you are. If you try to be something other than you are, over a course of a season, you're going to be figured out. It's going to be phony. So I decided I'm just going to be myself, which is basically be honest, listen to people when they talk, try to understand what makes players tick, and then use my baseball ability to figure out how to put the puzzle together. However, when you work for George Steinbrenner, let me explain. The patience level is about right there somewhere, okay? You see that? That's not very far apart. So I knew that I had to make an impression in a hurry. Well, the one thing I've never been afraid of in my managing careers is the fact that I never worried about getting fired. I never tried to do something somebody else wanted me to do. I always felt if I was going to do my job, I had to do it the way I felt it should be done, and if somebody else wasn't happy with it, so be it. So I figured this New York Yankee opportunity was marvelous for me because it gave me an opportunity to work for an owner who wanted to win, who was willing to spend the money, and now I figured, well, I'm going to find out if I can do this or not. And I remember my first meeting with my club in spring training of '96, and I said, guys, I have everyone on my coaching staff, and I had 5 coaches right there. I said, every single one of them have been to a World Series. I have not, other than buying a ticket. And I said, but you know what? I don't want to win 1 World Series. I want to win 3 in a row. And the reason I said that is, to me, when I go someplace, I'm going to do a job, and I just feel in order to do a job, you've got to dig in. You got to dig in. And the one thing I learned during my career, both as a player and as a manager, is you can't do it alone. Can't do it alone. And teamwork to me is, first of all, deciding on a destination, which is a goal, and then figuring out, who's going to get on board. And my job, again, is to those people who do get on board is to let them know what the plan is. Now, does that mean there aren't going to be setbacks? No, there are going to be setbacks. There's no question about it. But to me, the championship people are the ones that are able to shake off the setbacks and move on, learn from the mistakes, learn from different things that go on, as opposed to dwell on, why didn't we do this, I should have done that. And, players win games. Players win games. And the thing I tried, and I was very fortunate. I inherited a ball club that had young players and didn't find out till shortly into the season that you had guys like Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter, Andy Pettit, David Cohn, all these people who were interested in winning. Yeah, and my definition of winning is somebody getting the most out of their ability. And you cannot do this stuff alone, trust me. Because there are mornings, we're different than any other sport. Our sport is 162 games, so it's you have to eliminate the highs and the lows. You got to try to find a level that you can compete at and try to hold it there. And during my career, I've noticed other sports. You have teams winning Super Bowls, championships in other sports, even baseball, and they spend a lot of time celebrating, and by the time the following season rolls around, you can't find them anymore because they're admiring what they've done. My ball club was basically they never admired what they did. We won a World Series in '96, but they never admired it because they wanted to do it again. And I think once you stop to admire what you've done, you've stopped doing it. So I just tried to, as Dennis was pointing out, I tried to listen to people. Tried to, sometimes you overreact a little bit. Somebody comes in and is not happy with what you're doing with them or what role you have for them. And I never really reacted to their reaction. I just tried to figure out what made them say it and try to appeal to that and try to figure out how to get through to them. Because my job was about communication and trying to put people in a position to succeed. And I always had, I think I read it in one of these motivational, because trust you read a lot of motivational books, and there was one that the New England Patriots used, which tells me that players win games, but teams win championships. And nothing fit better than that little phrase. Because when you talked about our teams, I'm talking about our Yankees, we won in 96, we won in 98, 99, 2000, World Series in 4 out of the first 5 years. And it wasn't about me, it was about we. The 162 games, you don't feel necessarily at the top of your game every single day. So you need somebody else to rely on, somebody to help you along, somebody to ask about something. It's okay to be a little nervous or a little uncomfortable doing things because there's other people around you that are there to help you. And I've never been one, and it's a little tougher now because if you look at the media, the media right now, we glorify individual achievement a lot. And all of a sudden somebody gets caught up in saying, hey, how about me? And I think once you get caught in that trap, it takes a little digging to get yourself out of it. I don't think I've done anything magical. I got a lot of credit. Upset George because he's supposed to get the credit. Trust me, that upset George. He thought I was secretly telling media things to write about me, and that certainly wasn't the case. But you have to believe in people. And, sometimes it doesn't bear fruit right away. But I always felt that if that person, and I've told players many times, guys, when the start of the season, it's not your ability that's going to win. It's not the ability that's going to get you through. It's going to be your character. It's going to be your character. In other words, if something didn't go right, there's nothing wrong with saying I screwed up. Nothing wrong with it. When you tell the truth, you never have to remember what you said. So I always felt. But George was a little impatient. In fact, we had one meeting. I had in 1999, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. So I had the surgery, and I put Don Zimmer in charge, my bench coach. And he, he's a little more volatile than I am. People used to say, boy, you look very calm. I said, yeah, well, try sitting next to this guy for a while. Everybody's going to think you're calm.